Billy took to fucking Jews with an enthusiasm even Jessica couldn't have matched.
I don't even own a television. Judith Krantz, Scruples.
1, 2, 3.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I'm J.W. Friedman.
And I'm Chris Collision.
And we are here to talk about a book by Judith Krantz called Scruples.
It is called Scruples, and we should be scrupulously careful to mention right at the top that content-wise, this one is a little bit of tough sledding. There's some characters in it who are extremely abusive to one another with respect to their sexuality. And this is an incredibly vulgar book, and there's no way around either one of those things in discussing the book at all. So if those are problematic or traumatic for you, you might be happier sitting this one out.
Yeah, definitely. And also just be forewarned, there's going to be words in this that you will probably never hear again in another episode, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Because, yeah, there's just no ways around it. So please remember that when we're reading from this book, we are expressing the views of these awful, awful characters and not our own. And, yeah, if any of this is sensitive for you, maybe wait for next week when we talk about Star Wars, which will be much less upsetting.
We hope.
Yeah, 2 weeks, not next week.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. With that out of the way, we should probably mention that this book came to us in a very special way. It was proposed to us by our contest winner from last episode. Woo!
Yay!
Who provided a long list. We kind of went through it, and wow, this was provided by a contest winner, and we kind of picked a loser.
Yeah, we had 5 options, and we went with this one, and I feel like we drew the worst possible hand. Because this book is 600 pages long, and there's not much to it, but I guess it's probably a good time to do a plot in 60 seconds to hammer that point home, so here's a song. Nobody knows if you waited or not. You got 60 seconds to give us the plot. Plot in 60 seconds. Yeah, plot in 60 seconds. All right, so I'm going to do it this week, right?
What?
Yeah.
Unprecedented.
It is. So I'm going to allow myself 60 seconds here to try to describe the plot of this book, which I think I could do.
Man, I wish you nothing but the best. I have a little insight into what this process is like, and, well, Godspeed.
I'm freestyling this, too. I have no notes. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, as it were.
Well, may the force be with you.
All right.
Live long and prosper.
Give me a cue here so I
All
can
right.
cue the sounds. All right. Hang on, sorry. You didn't say anything. You did a completely visual.
I did hand gestures. It was amazing. You guys should have been there.
Just say go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Okay. So there's this horrible rich lady who has a department store filled with horrible rich people who shop there and work there. And at the beginning of the book, they're all miserable, and somebody's about to go to the Oscars or something, but who cares? And so then over the course of the book, you go into the backstory of all of these horrible people, and you find out why they're so horrible and who they like to fuck and how they like to fuck. And this goes on for a lot of pages. People call each other horrible names a lot. And then at about page 550, we snap back to the present. And everyone's at the Oscars, and then someone has a baby during the Oscars. And then at the end of the book, you still don't know if they won the Oscar or not, but you do know that the department store is successful, and this has been way longer than a minute.
No, that wasn't even 50 seconds.
Oh, well, hey. Okay, so the department store was successful. No one won an Oscar. That's it.
So well under 60 seconds. I think it got some of the parts slightly wrong.
That's okay. Because you know what was important in this book?
What's that?
The fucking.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get into that. Just in the sake of total transparency, it's not so much that nobody wins the Oscars as that everybody wins the Oscars, except for one character who you didn't get the backstory on. So everybody that you've actually spent any time with, yay, they do win an Oscar, and you don't care at all.
Oh, you don't at all, because like the whole book is basically set up like vignettes from short porn videos, like where there's basically like a really thin slice of plot that involves people being mean to each other and then fucking.
Right.
And then there's a lot of graphic sex. And and then everyone goes back to their jobs, which are also very important in the book.
Yeah. So you mentioned this off air. The best way to describe this book or to give a flavor of it is it's a lot like Airport was. Because there's a lot of descriptions of work, and they're very loving and intense descriptions of work.
That's true.
So put that in a blender with some Penthouse letters.
Yeah.
And I think you've got a pretty good idea for the general tone and flavor of this book.
So many of these chapters could have begun with, I never thought it would happen to me, but...
Maybe we should, let's get into it a little bit more, though. You set the scene.
I was being glib and dismissive, I admit it.
There's a lot to dismiss. Scruples is the name of a high-end, super high-end women's clothing store in Beverly Hills. That's the name of the store. So this one brings us back to those great books that we all love, like Airport and Condominium. If you want to write a really kick-ass bad book, apparently, step one is name it after a building of some kind. And the book is really kind of the life story of the owner of that store.
That's true.
Her name's Billy. And she's this Boston kind of upper crust lady, but with no money. And out of sequence and in no particular order, many, many things happen to her. She grows up kind of unloved and neglected. So, she becomes a fat girl, because that's the kind of book we're reading.
Yeah.
She then is packed off to Paris for a year after high school, because that's the kind of book we're reading, where she miraculously becomes incredibly thin and incredibly beautiful and incredibly devoted to style.
It's like she emerges from a chrysalis or something.
Yeah, she emerges. She's a sexy butterfly, but she still doesn't have any money. All she has is style. And this is a book that is primarily about fashion or fashion adjacent people. And she marries in very short order the richest man in the world, or one of the richest men in the world, and they're impossibly happy for a while. Then he has a stroke, and then he is an invalid, and she is still a very young woman. She's 40 years younger than him. And like, this is all in the first chapter or so.
Yeah.
This is the kind of book we're reading. It's definitely, I mean, we've talked about this. This book is not really aimed at us, and we should be upfront about that.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
That said, our problems with it, I think, are mostly not because of that.
No, it's just really silly.
It's very, very silly. So it's largely about, as I said, she becomes one of the richest women in the world halfway through chapter 2 or something. And the rest of the book, there are no obstacles for her to overcome. But boy, do we spend a lot of time with her overcoming non-obstacles and supposedly worrying about her non-problems. Maybe we should get into high points, low points.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so high point, first one for me is something you've kind of alluded to, I think, and it's something that I found enjoyable about Airport as well and stuff, is that the descriptions of the trade of fashion design and, actual tailoring and like dressmaking and stuff like that was really detailed and kind of fascinating in a way where obviously the person writing it had a lot of knowledge about it, and I kind of learned some stuff I didn't know about an industry that you don't know that much about, almost like Bob Holly's book from last week.
from pro wrestling to high fashion.
Ironically, I think this book has the word pussy in it more than Bob Holly's did.
We can't stress this enough. There is a lot of extremely graphic sex in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar to that, I really enjoyed that, and I thought it came from a real surfeit of energy in the book. It really felt like Judith Krantz was making this incredibly intense effort to get everything she thought into this book, everything she knew about in this book. So you'd get these little histories of Boston society or the fashion industry, or how a fashion magazine works, or the film industry, or high-end retail. And it was all told very intensely, and the characters, to the extent that there are characters in this, are all really committed to their jobs, and that just makes for a kind of description that I like. So that was fairly pleasant for me to read. There could have been more of it. Again, this is a 600-page book, and those passages are not uncommon, but
No.
I would have liked a few more of those and a few less of almost anything else.
All right, low points. I'll start out with one here. Nobody in this book is remotely likable. Everybody in it is a horrible, horrible shell of a human being. Like, everyone is cynical and just looking out for their own interests and treats everyone around them like garbage.
Right.
And, like, all the romance in this book is portrayed as that kind of, like, I hate you so much that I actually want to fuck you kind of stuff. And it's really... Everything about this just kind of drips with that kind of late 70s, early 80s, like, kind of approach to, like, we're going to portray people in power and how they really are. And it just comes across as people being, like, tremendous dickheads to one another. So, yeah, low point for me, for sure.
Yeah, similarly, the characters really didn't resonate for me either. That was a major low point. I would say that the characters didn't even really exist in a very meaningful way. They all have preferences and tastes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all they have.
And most of their preferences and tastes, as explained in the book, revolve around the the ethnicity of the people that they enjoy dating.
Yeah, exactly.
Explicitly.
People's sexualities are extremely central to them in this book, but they're all very cartoonish and exaggerated. So I'll try to be gentle, but that there is one of the main characters is this woman named Valentine, who's a fashion designer, and she starts going on some dates with her boss, and he never makes a move for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then when they finally do start having sex, he will only have sex with her from behind, and bum bum bum. It turns out that's because he's gay. And that's the level of sexuality that's expressed in this book.
Because that's the kind of book that we're reading. Yeah.
So these characters really don't have anything but their preferences. They don't have personalities. They don't really have interests. They don't really have motivations or anything. And some of that, I think, is deliberate. There is an arc for some of them, but a lot of it is not deliberate at all.
Yeah.
It's just badly presented characters. So that was a big low point.
Mm-hmm. Well, this kind of brings me to my second high point, I guess, which piggybacks right off of that. Is that our author, Judith Krantz, makes a strong case for Jewish men as sexual dynamos. So I'm 100% on board with that. There's lines in this like, where it is. And they're the best, too, Jessica muttered to herself, her lavender eyes bemused, unfocused. The best, Billy asked. She had never heard that Jews were the best, except maybe for violin playing and chess, and of course there was Albert Einstein, and well, you really couldn't count Jesus. He had converted. For fucking, of course, Jessica answered absentmindedly. So, that made me do a little woo.
And
Thanks, Judith.
I should say it. You couldn't count Jesus. He had converted. That's a pretty funny joke.
Yeah, there's a couple little quips in here that are great.
Yeah.
Like there was something I was reading earlier. I know you want to express your gratitude, but I can't take those grapes, Valentine. Think of Cesar Chavez. Like, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, and it's rare because it's a character making a joke. So
that's true.
It's pretty welcome in this book.
Well, it's Spider, which we haven't even discussed. Spider, who's kind of the one prominent male character in the book, I guess, who isn't an old man, and he is described as this all-American guy who is called Spider, which just does not work for me at all.
He's basically Robert Redford. He grew up in a house full of nothing but women, and he's relentlessly attuned to all that is feminine. Women are very comfortable around him. He understands them beautifully.
But he's also referred to many times as a famous coxman.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The word coxman is used so many times in this book.
Yeah. So naturally, all women, when they feel comfortable around a man, they fuck him. That's how life works.
Of course.
So because that's the book we're reading.
Yeah.
And he does have glimmers of energy. There's actually a passage towards the end where he gets very depressed that I thought was one of the most effective parts of the book.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually a very good evocation of what it's like to kind of be going through the motions. Everything in your life looks more or less the same, but you just don't feel any of it. I thought that was pretty nicely inhabited for a book from 1977 about a famous coxman
named Spider.
Named Spider.
Who is somehow an all-American man named Spider. That's just so weird to me. Like, I can't hear the word spider and think of someone who looks the way he's described in here.
Well, listen, Doc.
My monocle just flew right off.
Supposedly he got the name because it was nicknamed for Spider-Man, which makes very little sense to me. Anyway.
Yeah. High point.
High point for me, and this is, I fully expect you to disagree very strongly with this, but this book doesn't really have a plot, but I think it works as a portrait of sort of a way of life, but really what it works as a portrait of is a portrait of the way people who have a certain kind of life would like to see themselves. So everybody is interesting and everybody is vivacious and everybody is, having all kinds of kinky sex all the time. And, it's the way like a movie about making a movie always has a little extra zest.
Yeah.
This kind of has that vibe. And I honestly feel like if the author's last name were French, we might be interested in talking about this as like a searing takedown of people hollowed out by a savage capitalist society.
Yeah.
That would be largely nonsense, but it actually almost works on that level.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I think that any value it has as satire is kind of taken away a little bit by the extreme amount of graphic sex, where the way the book is presented as tableau form, it's like almost every chapter is built around a centerpiece of like a different sexual thing going on. Because the book is basically, that's what it's about, you know? And I feel like while there is this element that could be read as satirical, it's kind of hard to take it that way when it's constantly being interrupted with like graphic descriptions of people having hot tub sex and shit,
Yeah. Let's put a pin in that because that's going to have something very crucial to do with my last low point. But do you have a high point?
I had done my second high point.
You're out of high points. Okay,
it was the Jews as sexual dynamos. Big ups, Judith.
Woo! I think that speaks to the biggest problem with this book, and we've been joking about it. If that's the kind of book we're reading, it doesn't function as a parody because there's just altogether too much wish fulfillment.
Yeah, it's totally.
Women magically become thin. They magically then marry incredibly rich men in succession, have very minor arguments about their lives, and are having wild sex all the time. There's this long central piece where the main character, Billy, her husband's an invalid, so she starts sleeping with the male nurses that she employs. And when she gets bored with them, she literally, and this is described over and over again, gives them a severance check, and there's never any blackmail. There's never any... she worries about blackmail and it never happens. And it's just too lightly and blithely dismissed to work as a parody or anything else.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that kind of gets to my second low point too, which is something that, it's very similar to what you were saying and kind of something that I've been alluding to, is that I really just I kind of feel like in a lot of ways the book doesn't function as a narrative as much as just kind of a series of stories that more frequently than not resemble like penthouse forum letters, as you mentioned, and then they're all kind of framed. It's like, oh, this character is almost like you're watching Lost and it's like this episode is about Kate or whatever. It's like each chapter is specifically like one character getting into their backstory that always specifically goes into who they like to fuck how, what color of people they like to be around, if they're gay, how quote unquote flamboyant they are, and it's just like, it feels like a series of very shallow character studies to me. And
exactly.
I really found that to be a turn off, not pun not intended.
As opposed to those great penthouse letters scenes, which I found to turn on.
Yeah.
We were talking about this. I don't think we've mentioned it on there, but I have never read any book where there were so many erections straining against trousers.
Yes. The pants-covered erections in this book are through the roof, figuratively and literally.
1977 was apparently a year for tight pants. Who knew?
And public erections.
Yeah.
And there's so many scenes where it's like, so-and-so was so turned on by the tight erection that was showing in his slacks. And it's like, that's a little weird. I don't know.
Yeah, that has to appear 4 times in this book.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've seen that even one time in any other book.
Apparently this book exists in a world without underwear, so now you know.
Yep.
I guess we should take a break, huh?
Let's do it.
This is getting too real. We'll be back.
Everybody's talking about my tight pants. I got my tight pants. I got my tight pants on. Everybody's looking at my tight pants. I got my tight pants. I got my tight pants on.
So, hey, Collision,
Yeah.
do you want to read some cool parts of this book?
Oh my God, I don't want anything else.
Awesome. So check this out.
Yeah.
Yep, and don't worry, you'll find the time. Don't you want to astonish the whole fucking world? Spider, she said gratefully. If I kissed your feet, you wouldn't think I was coming on to you, would you? You don't have the strength, he answered. So, do you think he's saying that she doesn't have the strength to come on to him, or she doesn't have the strength to kiss his nasty-ass feet?
Oh, I definitely... That's a good question. I definitely read it as, you don't have the strength to handle what would happen if you came on to me, baby.
I think you're probably right.
Such a coxman, as we've established, is Spider. Though you don't have the strength to deal with Robert Redford's feet is also interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Who among us can say that we are sure that we in fact do have the strength to deal with Robert Redford's feet?
I don't think I do. Yeah, so it's a good little part of the book there.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about how fun it is to read this stuff about the fashion world and fashion adjacent worlds like Hollywood, fashion magazines, etc.
Yeah.
This was, I thought, one of the funnier moments of that. This is describing how Valentine, a would-be designer, is having trouble getting people to look at her brilliant but slightly avant-garde designs. The garment industry had just emerged from the bloodbath of the mid-calf length, and department store sales had never been worse, as American women refused to buy new clothes, defiantly clinging to their old pants for a few more years. And that just put this amazing, like, bad disaster movie montage into my head of department stores crumbling and women, like, literally clinging to old pants.
There's a character in this book named Muffy Woodstock. I didn't write down anything else about her, but her name is Muffy Woodstock. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Here's a good one. I like this part. The inspired heterosexual, the devout lover of women,
Yes.
the man whose life is a celebration of the fact that there are females in the world, arouses very little psychological interest. Volumes have been devoted to homosexuality and to the Don Juan complex, but the man who deeply, hungrily, passionately, and persistently enjoys women in all their characteristics, not merely sexually, is as rare as he has little acknowledged.
That is a description of Spider.
Yes.
And that leads me very, very neatly into some interesting things about Spider. So that immediately precedes a long thing about who he is. At this time, Spider is trying to be a fashion photographer. And this mystical rapport he has with women is helping him become a fashion photographer, right? But it's also helping him bed all the models. And there's a lot of descriptions of how he interacts with people and what his passions are as a photographer. Things like this. His passion was to capture women in moments when they weren't posing, in passages of brief, intimate communion with themselves. Or Spider discovered that what he really liked best was fucking in bed, in a girl's bed, in a girl's bedroom, smelling of girl smell. Although he was making good progress professionally, he still missed the atmosphere of a female's dwelling, and the closest he could get was sniffing around a model's apartment, picking up on all the evocative details. With bliss, he inhaled the smell of talcum and hairspray and Carmen rollers getting hot. He particularly enjoyed messy girls, who left things all over the place, underwear on the floor, wet towels slung over the tub. Shoes forgotten where he'd fall over them. Old favorite bathrobes, wastebaskets overflowing with Kleenex, sink tops littered with half-used lipsticks and eyeshadow brushes. All those girl-child artifacts gave Spider deep pleasure. His sisters, he thought longingly, were such a glorious bunch of little slobs. How he enjoyed their appetites.
That's pretty creepy.
This is a portrait of, at best, a voyeur.
Yeah.
And it's completely unintentional. There's a passage around there that describes how fashion photography works, and all I could think was, Terry Richardson, this is awful.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Terry Richardson,
totally.
and this is awful.
I bet he loved this book, actually.
Oh, God. I bet he got into his profession after reading this at like age
entirely
6.
possible.
Probably warped him completely, found a Coke bindle tucked into the paperback, and his entire life was set.
We're not big Terry Richardson fans here on the show. Sorry if you enjoy washed out photographs of people being exploited.
Although he and I do share a disturbing amount of fashion sense, he said uncomfortably in his flannel shirt.
Here's a cool fact about UCLA. It's as ripe with nookie as with smoggy sunshine. But Spider soon discovered that fashion photographer studios are the heartland of verbal sex.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But let me jump back. It's as rife with the what?
Nookie.
The what?
The nookie.
Sorry.
You can... All right. We're not going to do it.
Two great tastes that go great together. Judith Krantz's 1977 Scruples and 1999's worst hit song, Nookie by Limp Bizkit.
This book is truly all about the he said, she said bullshit.
It certainly made me want to break stuff.
Oh, goodness.
And if you see this book in a bookstore, I recommend that you don't pick it up. Instead, just keep rolling
Jesus.
on by.
Everyone who's listening to this show, their hats have spun around backwards, and they're now bright red. Here's another good one. Let's see. What do you think this means? I couldn't figure this out. If anyone was going to go down to the Virgin Islands and shoot 3 models in next year's monokinis, getting it off on the beach with a steel band, it was Hank.
I mean, what possible question could you have about what that means?
What do they mean, a steel band?
Oh, doesn't that just mean steel drums? Oh. Like the Caribbean, like...
Oh, a beach with a steel drum band.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking that it was like getting it on with a steel band, like some kind of like band, like...
Oh,
like a, some
like,
sort of...
Like a hoop that goes around a barrel.
Yeah, like some sort of complicated metal cock ring or something. I was just... My mind is too far in the gutter or something. The thought of a steel drum band didn't even occur to me.
So I think one of the things we're getting at is this book is definitely very visual. There's a lot of very strong and sometimes incomprehensible visuals that it'll put in your head.
Now it makes so much more sense, but also that's kind of not fair to the steel drum band. They probably don't want you getting it on directly in front of them while they're just trying to earn a living. I hope you tip well, at least.
Oh, God. I don't think anybody in this book tips well. Actually, that's not true. One person tips well in this book, and it's Billy's husband, her third husband, I think, or maybe second. What's his name? Vito something, Orsini. He's an independent film producer, and he tips well only at film festivals and only to make a point to snotty head waiters. That is the one character in this book who tips, near as I can tell, at all.
I'm sure at least somebody in this book does the thing where they put a bunch of money on the table and then tell the server, like, I'm going to be taking away $1 every time I'm dissatisfied.
Jesus Christ, that really bummed me out.
Yeah, I read about that on the internet somewhere where someone was bragging about it. You're cool, buddy.
Oh, I hope that person gets a lot of flat tires in their life.
I'm sure, yeah. Yeah, the universe will pay them back. Just a random out-of-context sentence that I love. The twin burdens of bisexuality and Jewish guilt weighed heavily on Hank.
That's particularly tough for Hank, because if I have it right, and I almost certainly don't, he's a fashion photographer, and whoever heard of a bisexual or Jewish photographer?
No, it's a strange profession to be in if you're either of those things, let alone both. Actually, I have no idea what goes on in fashion photography. I base everything on dumb scenes I've seen in movies from the 1980s in montage form.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments in the book, and actually I think that this is pretty successful, Billy is finding herself kind of at sea. She's not happy at all. She's trying to kind of figure out who she is. Her husband's sick, and she just doesn't know what to do with herself because he refuses to be seen more than she can see him. So she sits down and she's trying to grow up explicitly. So she makes a list. 1, find a bookstore. 2, learn to drive. 3, arrange tennis lessons. 4, she couldn't think of a 4. And I really thought that was a well done character note.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there. It's like, I need to change my life. 1, laundry, definitely laundry. 2, shower every 3 days, whether you feel like it or not. 3, I got nothing.
Yeah, totally. Oh, man. So, yeah. I don't know. Any other little snippets here before we roll on out?
I think I got a few, actually. We haven't touched on a lot of the supporting characters.
That's true. Let's do that.
There's a subplot that Spider has where he falls in love with this new to New York model. I know, listener, you're really confused because doesn't this whole thing take place in L.A.? Well, yes, but their backstories take place elsewhere, mainly New York or Paris, or there's one other place that I'm forgetting. Anyway, Spider's in New York, and the most beautiful woman who's ever lived, whose name is Melanie, shows up, and he starts photographing her, and he falls in love with her. But so does his boss. And his boss is a very, very interesting person.
Oh.
Yes?
You do your reading first, but then I want to mention something.
All right. His boss runs a fashion magazine, and she's described more or less exactly as Anna Wintour, I think.
That's very accurate.
Right. And, okay. And she is described as a member of the most hidden of all major sexual subgroups, an international network of middle-aged and powerful lesbians. And this goes on for a couple of pages where it's described that she was like initiated only in middle age.
I gotta call this out too. Every single time the word lesbian is in this book, it's capitalized.
It's capitalized because they are named after the Isle of Lesbos. It is in fact derived from a proper noun and should be capitalized. Said insane people.
Ah, gotcha. I was just like, it makes it look so strange. Like,
It does.
Yeah, like I've never seen that before. Like, this sexuality should be capitalized. It seemed very retrograde in a way.
Yeah, no, it's very old fashioned, and it definitely, since we're not used to seeing it, it doesn't read like it's capitalized as you'd capitalize New Yorker. It reads as though it's capitalized because you're shouting lesbian.
Yeah, totally. Like she was a lesbian, and that's totally how it comes across. It's pretty intense.
But I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed this network, this international network of powerful lesbians.
Yeah, that would be a good TV show. Like on Fox, I would totally watch that or something. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's an international network of powerful lesbians.
And the first one in it is the lawyer from Jessica Jones.
Yeah, there you go.
Recent Netflix hit that I was months late to.
Hey guys, we like nerd things too.
Yeah.
Can we all be friends?
I could watch that because it's streamed to my computer because I don't own a television.
I own 2.
Damn!
Oh, shit. Branding. We'll have to edit that out. Yeah, so there's a lot of that.
So that I feel like that gives kind of a flavor for the book, but there's other flavors too. So we've touched more than touched on. We've talked a lot about the sex in this book, and there's a lot of it. And you know, we read these in similar ways. Like our partners are frequently, sadly, subjected to certain readings. So the other night, I happened to read the first sex scene to my lady, and she insisted that I mention part of it on the show. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that as part of a question.
Okay.
Which is if there's any particular language usages that just leapt off the page at you.
Yeah. There is a lot of usage of the word cunt in this book in a sexual context, and that, I mean, it comes across as very, very strange to read, I guess, in a non-quote-unquote pornographic setting. Right. It feels pretty strong. I mean, people talk like that for sure, you know, but like it's a little strange to read it.
I happened to stumble over this. Judith Krantz was 50. 50 when she wrote this novel.
But man, Judith Krantz was fucking,
That's a salty lady.
Yeah, definitely. She was not holding anything back.
No.
Not inhibited in any way. And I mean, it's admirable. I would say, like, this book gets way more graphic. And I was mentioning this outside, and maybe this is a good time to go into this. This is a genre that I'm pretty much unfamiliar with. I think this is something that definitely a lot of women who listen to the show have expressed interest in this book because they read it as kids because of the sex scenes and stuff.
It's the kind of thing that gets passed around in groups of friends, right? Yeah,
and so I came into this, I guess, expecting something much more tame, and I was really shocked by how explicit it is. And I mean, there's straight up graphic. I mean, it's fucking. You can't call it like graphic sex. I mean, there is lots of fucking in this book. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, and our contest winner actually sent us a bunch of pages that she'd scanned from this how to write romance book.
Yes,
and there were pages of it devoted to how to depict sex, but it's all very euphemistic and nuanced, and this doesn't go for any of that.
No,
but the prose is a little spicy. The thing from the scene that Noodles required me to mention on the show was some man parts are described as pouchy globes, and some pages later, a character is looking at another man, and she makes a mental note about his superb penis. And for some reason,
globes featuring superb penis. The hottest mixtape of 2016.
Exactly. And Valentine, one of the characters, is repeatedly described as having mermaid eyes.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the fuck a mermaid eye is.
Yeah, and I kept reading that and like, oh, maybe they mean she has like blue eyes like the water. But then explicitly they're mentioned as being pale green like emeralds a couple times, so that's not the case.
So I guess like maybe that's the kind of eye color mermaids have. I don't know, because mermaids aren't a thing.
I think if there were mermaids, they would be all different colors of eyes and skins.
Whoa.
I'm progressive like that. We're great allies here on I Don't Even Own a Television, taking the stances that matter.
Stop drawing only white mermaids, Tumblr.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, man. Okay, we should probably take a break, I'm thinking.
I think so.
All right, we're going to come back and do some segments and games. Stay tuned.
Woo.
All right, it is time to do some segments and games here on I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I couldn't resist. I decided before we started recording I wasn't going to reintroduce the show every time, but it just feels so weird.
Yeah, it's not right. Because we need to cater to those of you who somehow have started 40 minutes into the show, which is totally a thing people can do with a podcast easily.
Yeah, well, maybe it's like when you pick up an old video game and you forgot what happened.
Right.
It's impossible to keep going.
Yep.
Maybe someone still has 20 minutes left on an old episode from fucking 3 months ago.
Yeah. And you know, if so, welcome. You're about to meet the final boss of this book.
Oh, man, that's true.
A little thing we like to call wallowing in the prose with dramatic readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
Wallowing in the prose, following our nose.
Whoa.
Which way it goes? Nobody knows. We're going to read some shit here.
The book's nature, it shows.
Oh, damn. And we're just two cool-ass bros.
The audience's interest grows.
It's the opposite, actually, is what's happening. Let's do some dramatic readings before we can never escape from this hole we're digging.
Right.
Well, speaking of digging a hole, why don't you go first?
Oh, dear. Strap in, kids. Hank, you don't have to understand it. Just believe me. She moved closer to him. And with the same casual yet precise gesture she might have used to shake hands, she deliberately reached out and laid her elegant hand directly over the tight V of his jeans. Her fingers expertly searched out the outline of his penis.
It's superb.
Jesus! In an electric reaction, he tried to sit up straight, but only succeeded in spilling his drink.
Whoa!
I think you'd enjoy this more if you just sat still, Billy murmured as she unzipped his jeans. His cock was completely limp with shock, curled on a broad mat of blonde hair. Billy took a long breath of delight. She loved it like this, all soft and small. That way, she could get every bit of it into her mouth with ease and hold it there, not even tonguing it yet, just feeling it grow and grow in the wet warmth, experiencing her power without moving a muscle. Even the hair on those pouchy globes squeezed together between his legs was straw-colored. Gently she nuzzled them, inhaling deeply the secret smell. Until a woman has smelled a man precisely there, she thought, driftingly, she can't know him. Now, I'm going to leave it there, but if you're listening to this show, ladies, think about whether or not you really know anybody, according to Judith Krantz's greatest creation, Billy.
Do you think maybe Judith Krantz is a dog that somehow found the ability to manipulate the English language?
You know, if so, I think she did a really great job.
It's true. I'm really impressed.
And that would help explain how many conversations there are in this book, and there's at least a half a dozen of them, where one woman says to another character, "Have I really been much of a bitch?"
It's true. And people keep chasing after balls. That doesn't actually happen. Well, I guess once again, I've set myself up with a really unintentional shitty sex pun. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean that.
Pouchy globes and superb penis
Yep.
with unintentional shitty sex pun.
The posse gets bigger.
Yeah. No, that was the number 2 single.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's my dramatic reading. This is the introduction of a very well-defined and not at all stereotypical gay character named Sergio. When she met Sergio on Monday morning, as she reported for work, she found not just another queen, but rather a very royal, very grand, very petulant princess. He was young, with a beautifully molded chin and neck. His lips were pouting and provocative, and he had a classically voluptuous face and fairly long, glossy brown hair. He dressed in the height of Italian fashion. His pure silk body... He dressed in the height of Italian fashion, his pure silk body shirt unbuttoned to the navel, showing a great deal of smooth tan chest, and his slim waist clasped by a heavy solid gold link belt. His trousers might not have seemed too tight in a Spanish bull ring, but on 7th Avenue they made a definite statement. Sergio at that moment was a very, very, very angry princess who had come back dreadfully bombed out from a much too brief vacation to find that his dependable workhorse of an assistant had been replaced by some little tricky numero Alan had put over on him in his absence. You could trust nobody in this business. A French twat. How was that for sneaky?
Jesus Christ. Wow. And I want to note that Sergio is not just the kind of... nuanced, subtle, well-drawn gay character that you just outlined, but he's also the kind of character who, when his boss yells at him, he gets such a raging hard-on that he has to go up to a bathroom on a different floor of this office building to the glory hole bathroom in this office building, which is totally a thing that exists.
But according to this book, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, exactly. But this is just one of them there on 7th Avenue. Who knows? Maybe there's multiples in this this building.
It is known as the Glory Hole District. Little known fact.
Yeah, so this is apparently on the 13th floor. He would never use the one on the 3rd floor. That one is just awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the book that we read.
Yeah. Well, it should be mentioned, and okay, I'm going to admit it, guys. I don't know much about actual glory holes. But there's a really weird moment in this where Sergio goes up to the glory hole, and there's just a bunch of guys like hanging out at the sink, like introducing themselves to each other.
Right.
And then he meets a dude, and they, briefly are like, "Hey, you want to fucking have some sex?" And they're like, "Sure." And he's like, "Okay, you go in that room there, and then I'll go over here." I kind of thought the whole idea of this thing was that it was supposed to be anonymous, right? Like, it just seems weird that you'd I don't know. I know nothing about these things, but it just seemed weird. It seemed like maybe Judith knows as little about these things as I do, perhaps.
And we talked about this a little bit off air. There's shockingly little drugs in here, so she doesn't maybe know how a glory hole works, and she doesn't seem to think that models and photographers and writers are doing anything other than drinking occasionally.
They drink a lot of wine, and they have a lot of sex, but there's never any cocaine in this book, which is very surprising to me given the time and the setting.
There's one cocaine joke.
There is, that's true.
And it's played as though like Billy is shocked at the idea that someone in Hollywood is a coke fiend. Yeah.
I mean, by the end of the book, everyone pretty much is involved with the film industry.
Right.
And yet there's still like shocking moment where...
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wigs are flipped, monocles fly out and land in martini glasses.
Yeah.
So great is the shock depicted in this book. Let's move to another game. Jay, I have a hard-hitting question for you.
What would you call this question?
What is your fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
Oh, man, I'm going to have some deciding to do.
Oh, you have so much deciding to do. This is a book written in a very specific register. Mm-hmm. And I want to note that almost all of these come from the first chapter, so don't call me out for that. That was basically I just ran out of steam. But
yeah, if you wrote down every crazy thing in this book, like you would spend more time writing than reading, because like every single page I was like, holy shit, highlight. Holy shit, highlight.
Exactly. So what I'm going to ask you is, what is your favorite superlative named in this book? It's a long list, so buckle up. The world's most lavish specialty store. The most staggering display of luxury in the Western world. That most independent of independent film producers. The most important woman in television. The most successful luxury shop in the world. The world's best ready-to-wear and haute couture. The most popular, unorganized yet exclusive men's club in town. The most assertive, even aggressive hair she had ever seen. The world's most expensive store. The most hidden of all major sexual subgroups in an international network of middle-aged and powerful lesbians. The wildest disco dancer in New York.
Oh, man.
The most expensive party. The most photographed party. The most electric and talked about party of the 1970s. The most successful luxury store per square foot of selling space in Beverly Hills, in the United States, in the world. The worst dressed woman in public life. The most elegant outdoor dining room in the world.
The last of the famous international playboys. Or the world's most famous undertaker. Whichever of those are available. Like 3 people will get that joke. If you get that, please write in so that I will be happy when someone writes in to get something instead of grumpy about it.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so...
So what
the real one would probably be the most staggering display of luxury in the Western world.
Yeah.
Because that sounds just like a really good album by like a weird British band from the 90s. Mm-hmm. Like Kitchens of Distinction would name an album that or something, or Aztec Camera.
And have like a long, slow song that's just a guy murmuring about ostentatious wealth or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's my favorite.
My favorite was, of course, about assertive, even aggressive hair. I don't know why. Aggressive hair I can sort of imagine, but assertive hair I'm having some trouble with, and I'm loving every minute of that trouble.
It's good. I also just like anything to do with the disco dancer, so that was also a runner-up.
All right, without further ado, let's launch into yet another segment, a little thing we like to call Russian Roulette.
Russian Roulette, Russian Roulette, Russian Roulette, not actually Russian.
Not actually Russian.
Oddly, no. Probably French-Irish, Black-Irish, but not black.
Just like the characters in this book. We were talking about it. That's the closest thing to a detailed portrait of ethnicity you get is typical Black Irish features, and then they're very quick to mention pale skin.
Right, yeah.
Don't get it twisted now.
Yeah, that or Jewish, and that's literally the only kind of person who appears in this particular book.
That's true.
But let's get out of that and into a randomly chosen passage. Jay, I would like you to go first. Please begin with this passage that I had randomly generated that begins with the word the words Hank Sanders.
Hank Sanders looked around the room with apprehension mixed with wonder, while Billy busily opened the portable bar case made to order in London 10 years before race meetings and country house shooting parties, a relic of an era in her life that seemed as archaic as the silver-topped decanter she set in a row on the carpet for lack of a table. The floor of the air-conditioned room was covered from one wall to another in thick, soft raspberry carpet, which also covered 3 of its walls all the way up to the ceiling. Ew. Which, like the 4th wall, was entirely mirrored. Oh, dear. Oh, I see where this is going.
Can't stress this enough. This was actually factually randomly chosen.
Hank nervously walked about, noting that there were no windows in the room, no chairs, nothing but a small chest in one corner. Light came from 3 poles, which reached from floor to ceiling, to which were attached small spotlights fitted with pink bulbs, which could have been pointed in any direction. A large, low bed took up almost half the space. It was covered in rosy pink satin sheets and piled with pillows. He was pointlessly investigating the spotless bathroom when Billy called to him. "Hank, what are you drinking?"
So, Jay, what do you think happens next?
I'm guessing they're going to have a detailed conversation about what it takes to make it in the cutthroat world of fashion design.
Yeah, either that or, like the movie says, I don't know, he fixes her cable.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of graphically described awkward 70s sex, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, randomly chosen, and we're launched into a raspberry carpeted mirror ceilinged hotel room.
I like how it escalates, though. At first I was like, oh, they're just talking about decor. And then they were like, the walls were mirrors. And I was like, oh, God, no. I know where this is going.
And, like, even Billy's shit has backstory. Like, it can't just be a decanter. It's got to be a decanter that she's had for 12 years and hasn't used for 8. You know, it's...
Here's the thing, too, right? I mean, both of us are pretty close to middle age, if not middle age, right? Is there still, to you, anything less attractive than the idea of a room full of middle-aged people having sex?
I mean, if I'm not one of them, then
Yeah.
that's terribly unappealing. If I am one of them, however, can't stress this enough. Hot.
That's true.
Because we may be middle aged, but we are handsome men.
It's true. Oh, so
Anyway.
yeah, Russian roulette, your turn.
Whew, all right, this is what I got. This is what I got. That same night, at 3:00 in the morning, Spider, still awake, heard a faint tap on his hotel door. He opened it to find a woebegone Valentine huddled in her deep blue robe. He bundled her into the room, deposited her in a chair, anxious and surprised. "What's wrong, Val? My God, don't you feel well?" She looked like a terrified child. Great green eyes, without their usual frame of heavy black mascara, swam in unshed tears. Even her farouche curls seemed to have lost some of their fight. "Oh, Elliot, I'm scared shitless." "You, darling, how do you think I feel?" "The way you acted today, I thought you were so nervy, so sure of yourself, so impudent to Billy." "And what about you? Almost walking out of that lawyer's office, going up in smoke like that. I've never seen you so angry. Not even at me." So it's very As the World Turns.
Yeah, there is. There's a real soap opera kind of quality to the way people, the storminess of people's relationships, for sure. Like, no one's just happy in this book. Like, all the people who are in love with each other are constantly like, "Oh, how dare you say that? Oh, but I love you so much, my dear. I must forgive you, but I hate you. Let's fuck."
Right.
That's...
And for a book written by a 50-year-old woman, the primary happy romance between Valentine and Spider, they're explicitly never gonna fuck and we're just friends. So in the least surprising turn of events ever, in the last 9 pages, they admit their love, have some fairly graphic office sex, and presumably go to live happily ever after. And it's for something written by a 50-year-old woman, it's extraordinarily high school.
Well, I mean, the way it happens, too, is she's literally engaged to someone else. And when she tells him, "I'm going to marry this guy," he goes, "Are you ridiculous?
Yeah.
Don't you know what's going on in your head? Let me explain it to you. You're
Right.
actually in love with me."
The mighty coxman who has slept with 24 women who are named in the course of this book, and hundreds of others who don't get names in the course of this book. Yeah.
But yeah, so it is. It's very, very high school. And I mean, it even literally ends with almost literally being interrupted at the altar by like, the one you were looking for was in front of you all along.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm surprised nobody took their hair down and their glasses off and became ravishingly beautiful at the end of this book. Actually.
Yeah, that major missed opportunity for Scruples there. I mean, we should be fair. There are one or two fairly acute psychological moments in it. There's a moment where Valentine is making out with this married man, and there's this line that's something like, "They were too old to keep kissing forever." And too old to go farther without talking. And I thought, oh, that's actually kind of a nuanced observation. But that's literally a sentence in the middle of a 600-page book.
That's legitimately like the real Judith Krantz grown up slipping through into this like hypersexualized teenage fantasy world.
Right. It's the one thing where like the wish fulfillment machine turns from hot random sex to, actually, let's be grown-ups and talk about our feelings for a second.
Here's the realities of adulthood. Just kidding. Now we're fucking in the hot tub. All
right. Speaking of hot tubs, we should take a break so I can make an appointment for hot tubs. And we'll be right back.
What are you talking about? We're going to go use the hot tub here in lavish Satellite Manor.
Yeah!
All right, so we spend a lot of time kind of trashing things on this show. Sometimes I feel kind of bad about it. So in an effort to make my peace with the universe and yours as a listener, we like to recommend things that we like at the end of the show. So would you like to go ahead and start us off, Collision?
I would. I think I will give a extremely qualified recommendation. I did not hate this book as much as I hate almost everything we read. If you read on an e-reader, you should probably be able to get the first chapter or so of this for free. Mm-hmm. That's as much as you need to read. That's about as fun as it gets.
It's fun.
And I don't not recommend it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's batshit, but it is energetic, and the pages do go by. I don't recommend you spend any money on it. But if you've listened to this point and you think you're at all interested, yeah, go ahead and download the free sample, and you will get as much of a kick out of that as you'll get out of anything.
This is literally the novel that the phrase trashy novel was invented to describe.
Exactly.
And it's something else. I had a good time reading it, I'm not going to lie. I was furious at the characters and I hated them, but reading the book was really, really entertaining. It's definitely eye-opening. I had no idea that things got as explicit as they do in Scruples until I started reading it, so...
Without a doubt. And my real recommendation is a book I recently read called Zippermouth by Lori Weeks, which is in some ways a little bit similar. It's about a young woman kind of having a coming-of-age story like this one, but the milieu is very different. It's sort of New York downtown art scene, and she's a junkie, and she's a lesbian without any of the nightmarish politics of of Scruples, and it's a very good read. I recommend it. It's very of its time. It is an interesting portrait of sort of 80s, 90s downtown New York, and I basically read it in a day, which I never ever do because I'm a very slow reader. So Zippermouth, Lori Weeks, give it a shot.
Sounds awesome. I'm actually going to recommend a podcast this week, and a lot of you guys may already know about this, but I just discovered it I really enjoyed it.
It's called I Don't Even Own a Television.
It is. It's this great podcast where two charming fellas talk about bad books. Actually, no. I'm recommending You Must Remember This, which is a podcast about kind of classic Hollywood stories. Something that I like. But in particular, I wanted to recommend, it's actually the second episode that they ever made, and it's called Frank Sinatra in Outer Space. And it's just a really, really cool episode about a very strange moment in Frank Sinatra's recording career that I had no idea existed, and it was just really fun to listen to. And you'll walk away from it kind of shaking your head in wonder. So definitely check that out. And yeah, the show is called You Must Remember This. I know that it's very well known, so sorry if this is a redundant recommendation, but I thought that episode was great and worth mentioning. So
Yeah, excellent. I don't think a good thing becomes better because not that many people know about it.
But weren't you into punk rock when you were a kid? No, I'm just kidding.
And as a tired old man, yes, I remain into punk rock.
But aren't things better before other people spoil them?
That's definitely true. Okay, I retract it. Things are definitely cooler the fewer people know about them.
I'm just saying.
Because people are kind of creepy and lame. And
I think I mentioned this on the show before, and this is super dorky, but as a teen, I was really into Green Day for their first couple albums. And then at one point they had...
Oh, yeah, so for like, Dookie and Nimrod.
Shut up. Anyway, Dookie came out in Longview. They played on the local, like, butt rock station during their Smash It or Trash It section. And people kept calling in and being like, smash it, it's the best. And, like, I just, like... It was the sound of a slide whistle going down in my head because I'm like, oh, fuck, the party's over. Like, the next time I go to see these guys at a show, it's going to be hellish. And I was right. So people ruin everything. The less people that like things, the better.
Except you, good people. Thank you for liking our podcast. Tell a friend.
That's
Spread
true.
the word.
Yeah. Rate us 5 stars so that more and more people and horrible people will become... No, I'm just kidding. I'm not Kurt Cobain. Don't worry, guys. I'm feeling all right. I'm okay in the head. So do you think we should read some letters?
Yeah, so let's read this first letter. Dear Jay, we have received your order for this shotgun cleaning kit.
Oh,
it will be in the mail in 1 week.
Oh, no.
We also are shipping heroin. Love, Amazon.com.
Did you see the thing on the internet that someone found all of the little fucking cocaine kits on Amazon? Like, basically, Amazon was selling a bunch of things that were basically like Coke spoons or like little vials that you could wear around your neck with a spoon attached to the cap. And all of them said like something, not for cocaine in the title. It was great. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
awesome.
I digress. Let's read some letters for real. Here's a song.
Let's read a letter.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
Okay, so this first letter is from Sarah Nolastname, and it goes a little something like this. Hi, IDEO TV. Hello.
Hey.
I've been listening to your podcast for the last 4 months, and your podcast has become one of my favorites. This podcast has managed to get me back into reading, and also giving me good reason to never touch a copy of The Alchemist I have sitting on my bookshelf after receiving it for my birthday last year.
Oh, man. It's like, okay, Wild Animus is the book that shows up in thrift shops the most.
Yeah.
Alchemist is the book that shows up unwanted on gifting occasions the most, it seems like.
Yeah, it's like, is it in like the checkout line of the Whole Foods or something?
It feels like kind of an underhanded book to give to someone as a gift, too. Like, happy birthday, get your shit together.
Yeah. A lot
Anyway.
of us have trouble figuring it out. Here's this book.
Yeah.
Anyway. When I listened to the Bob Holly episode and got to the part about where he mentioned Matt Capitelli, I had to pause it and went back a few seconds just to make sure I heard it right. And once I did confirm that I heard his name, that's when it got a bit awkward for me. The reason is that I grew up in the town Matt Capitelli was born and raised in, and I used to be good friends with one of his cousins. A part of me is very tempted to contact my old friend to show him this episode since he's a wrestling fan, but I'm not sure how he would react to the one small section that mentions his cousin, and not to mention the Capitellis are a pretty big deal in the town I grew up in, since a lot of people are related to them.
Oh, man.
Sorry for being a bit long. That's what Late Night Ramblings will do. Thanks for being an awesome podcast, and I look forward to what's in store for the future. Well, thank you so much, and we can't stress enough, please, for the love of God, do not,
No.
put this in front of anybody. Nobody needs to get their ass kicked because of this podcast.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I was saying on the show when we recorded it, and I maintain this, like, I would like to keep as many degrees of separation between me and Bob Holly as possible. Like, I just legitimately, the thought of him hearing that episode terrifies me to the core. So, yeah, please don't play it for anyone who may know him. Thank you. So we had a contest, huh?
we had a contest. So we put the word out. As you likely know, there's a thing called Valentine's Day in the world, and that's why we chose this uber romantic book.
Cue the fucking harps and string section.
The violins swelled like the man's turgid penis beneath his tight trousers. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So we ran a contest to ask people to write or call in with their favorite bad or botched romantic gesture from a bad book. And of the entries we got, we have chosen the following call as by far the number one. So let's hear a bit of that.
Hi Jay, hi Chris. This is Thomas Hale, and this is going to be a reading from Jonathan Gash's novel The Gondola Scam. Now, for reference, the hero is an antiques expert, and he's just finished describing illegal auctions to his paramour Connie. Connie was outraged. "But that's not fair," she cried. I pulled her down, and inevitably her perishing cold feet climbed inchwise up my legs. "I know that, but the first ever successful prosecution for an illicit auction ring was in 1981. It's hopeless." She forgot the drafts long enough to raise her head off my chest and peer at me. "But why were you there, darling?" "I was made to go," I lied, putting on my noble face. "Wanted to buy you a present." Her eyes filled with tears. "Darling," she said, all misty. "And you risked being caught, put in prison for life, just for me?" Even I felt quite moved by my story, and I'd just made it up. "Well, love," I said brokenly, "I don't give you much, and this cottage isn't much of a place to bring you. It's absolutely beautiful," she cried defiantly. "I just love the village and your lovely little home." If she'd agreed it was crummy, I'd have thumped her there and then. Hastily, I told her how wonderful she was, with inevitable consequences. Also inevitably, she briefly halted the romance for meteorological reasons. "Darling, couldn't we make love the other way round? Then we can stay under the bedclothes?" "For you, anything," I said. She said I was so sweet, which is true, though when I came to afterwards I was still knocked with her about my last pasty. A single pasty can keep you going a whole day sometimes, which is more than can be said for almost anything else you can think of.
Okay, so I think this is a great example of how performance makes the reading. For sure. Because there's so much dedication in the switching back and forth between character voices, and that right there I was like, you get it, buddy. You're on it.
Yeah, and the passage choice was good. It starts really relatable. Who of us has not crawled into bed with somebody with cold extremities?
That's true.
That they put on you. Who among us has not? I couldn't quite understand. Who among us has not rigged some kind of antiques auction?
That's true. And I mean, everyone loves a pasty. So. No, awesome, great job. Yep. You get a T-shirt.
You get a T-shirt. I will be reaching out to you, lucky winner, very, very soon. So look forward to that. And with that, I believe.
Well, if you're listening to this and you're like, "Hey, how come I didn't know about this contest?" I'm going to tell you why you didn't know about this contest. It's because you're not following us on social medias. So make sure to go to Twitter, IDEOTVpod. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/IDEOTVpod, or do a search for the I Don't Even Own a Television Party Pit, which is our group where we frequently host little discussions, and that's where we post things about these kind of contests and whatnot. So if you're a member of that group, that's where you're going to find out about this kind of shit. You can win free shirts, free tickets to live events, whatever the heck we're giving away. So that's a good place to do that.
Wait, Jay, did you just say something about a live event?
I did.
Interesting. Are you saying we have a live event? We
do, actually, and it's coming up really soon. It's Sunday, the 21st of February, in the year of our Lord 2016. We're going to be at Stageworks in the Mission in San Francisco. It's on Valencia. It's very close to BART.
Right around the corner from 16th Street BART. Show will start at 2 o'clock. Tickets are available on brownpapertickets.com for $10. Just search IDEOTV.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a show. The book in question is going to be the novelization of The Force Awakens. It's going to be fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, novelization of the most popular movie ever made by ticket sales by legendary novelization auteur Alan Dean Foster. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Who knows? I might even bring my Jar Jar Binks puppets out. You never know.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We've got a lot of stuff in store, so check that out. If you want to email us, I don't even own a television at gmail.com. We have a phone number now, don't we?
We do. It is 614-943-3688, which is 614-9-IDEOTV.
Give us a call. Leave us a message. We'll play that. We'll read your letters no matter what. You may hear them in the next episode, which will be live, like we said. So come on down if you're in town, please. We really want to have you out. If not, you'll be hearing this soon, and hopefully it'll be fun.
Good tickets still available. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. If you want a T-shirt, send us an email. We're happy to sell you one.
Yeah, exactly. We do all this under the table. Fuck you, Mr. Taxman. All right, so this has been I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep reading crap.
Thank you.